Have you ever dreamed of finding a sunken treasure? It really happened to an American family just off the Florida Keys.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with Wanderlust.
Welcome to the Travel FOMO podcast. My name is Jamin Houghton, and I'm here with my wife and fellow beach bum, Hilarie.
Oh my goodness, I love being a beach bum. I'm really good at it.
You do like the beach a lot, don't you? If you could only ever go on one kind of vacation for the rest of your life, do you think you would pick beach?
I mean, maybe. I really like sunshine and I really like warm weather.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that is a definite possibility. I'd probably pick a place with the beach and mountains and cliffs nearby.
You could snow ski on the beach.
Yes. I like extreme diversity. Which, oh my goodness, talk about the best beaches. The Keys are incredible.
The Keys are really cool. I was kind of surprised by the beaches a little bit because when I think of like Florida beaches, I think of Pensacola and Destin, and it's this sort of long beach area that goes into the water.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Whereas in the Keys, it's more like sections of sand and then like next to the water.
That's true.
But that don't necessarily flow into the water. I was kind of surprised about that.
I know. You have like so much access to see the ocean, but then your actual access to get in it might be a little bit more limited because of, there's not as much technical beach space, I guess.
Yes, yeah. And there's so little land.
There's so little land.
And it all feels so flat.
Yeah.
Because I think you can see in both directions.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a lot of places, you can see ocean on one side of you, ocean on the other side of you. There's not big waves. At least there wasn't while we were there. It was like really calm.
Super calm.
And it just seemed so flat forever.
Yeah. I don't know how they make it through hurricanes. I feel like hurricane season would be so hard on the Florida Keys because there's not much land and it is like sea level.
Yes, yeah. Like I think probably everything just gets flooded.
That's so
I would
crazy.
have to imagine.
Yeah, man.
Because it's like 44 islands.
Right. Yeah.
Linked by bridges. So Highway 1 kind of goes down, which is what we took. We had just left Miami. If you didn't listen to the last episode, go back and catch Miami. We really liked it, but we're so excited to go to the Keys. And you just drive down this highway. It's the only way in or out. Mm-hmm. And it's just bridges between all these little islands. It's really cool and not like anything else in America.
No, it's not. And I love that highway is literally Highway 1. Yeah, man. And you know what really stood out to me too was how much it reminded me of things I'd seen on TV, like Bloodline. We loved the show Bloodline on Netflix.
Yeah. I
say TV. That dates me, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're an old person.
I love some of the streaming options that remind me of the Keys. But Bloodline was a really good one that was like based in the Keys, and I felt that while we were there for sure. And I think we even drove past the place where it is. I'm pretty sure we didn't like literally go up to it, but
right. I think you can stay there for like $35,000 a week.
Oh, that's right. We looked it up, didn't we?
You can go stay there. I will say everything in the Keys is pretty pricey.
Yeah. Oh man, that's true. But it was so worth it. We hands down,
yes.
Like our campsite was expensive, but it was so worth it.
Yeah, would definitely recommend it.
That was great. It was great. And we were coming from Miami, like you said. It was like, 2 hours?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I will never forget getting all the way down there. And we were staying in Marathon, which is one of the islands or one of the towns on an island. And we get there and I realize, I can't unlock the trailer. Where's my keys? And I had lost my keys. So here I am in the Florida Keys thinking I've lost my keys in the Florida Keys. This is crazy. But fortunately, we were able to call the RV park in Miami and be like, hey, any chance you guys have seen some keys laying around at our campsite? And sure enough, like, I don't know how, but they were somewhere in the grass. Oh man. But anyway, we did eventually get them, but we waited until we were completely done in the Florida Keys before we headed back to Miami and then swooped them up there. I couldn't believe it.
We had to go a little out of our way to retrieve them back, but
yeah, it wasn't ideal.
Just fun footage of you confessing on the YouTube video. So if anybody wants to go out and see real-time reaction, you can do that.
But we were at this incredible RV resort. We loved it. So we got over it real fast.
Yeah. I mean, it was such an amazing place. We stayed at the Jolly Roger RV Resort in Marathon, Florida. So kind of closer to Key Largo. I don't think we realized how far we would still be from Key West.
Yeah, true.
Because we were definitely like in the Keys. We're in Marathon, and but we were still a good 2 hours from Key West.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really nice to get there so quickly. And this place is right on the water. In fact, we didn't get to stay in one of them, but there are sites actually on the seawall where you stay right next to the water.
Yeah. And you would see the sunset from your camper. Like the back end of your camper would literally like face the ocean and the sunset.
Yeah.
No obstructions at all. Like, man, there were some good sights.
Well, and they had a really nice beach area with great sand that they kept super clean, and they kept it well manicured with Adirondack chairs out there for you to use.
Yeah.
They had like a dock. So if you are a kind of person that wants to go boat and fish or even just kayak, they had several docks out there that people could use. Had a really nice pool, but we never went there. We just went to the beach.
Right. It was so nice.
It was really cool. Definitely recommend it. They would light it all up at night too, like the beach, and they had a cabana, like a grass hut cabana kind of thing. And they would light it all up with multiple like colors every night. And so it was just a really great place. They had a huge dog park with great grass. I remember Maggie loved going out there. That was probably her favorite stop in all of Gap Year. Was getting to run around in that dog park, and the grass everywhere was just great.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
It was really nice. And you know what? I was just remembering that we booked that way far in advance, but and I remember thinking like, man, we should have got something on the ocean, like, cause ours was just off of the ocean.
Right.
And I was like, man, we should have got one of those awesome sites. And then I remembered my phone call with them. And they were like, well, we can't book those sites because the seawall is torn down right now and we're having to rebuild it back up.
Right.
So we literally called too far in advance, because then later on somebody else comes in and swooped it up. And I should have told them, well, when they become available, put us in there. And, they probably wouldn't have. But, I mean, anybody would want to do that for you,
right,
but the odds of them remembering that aren't good. But anyway, I keep thinking, why didn't we do that? We should do that next time. And then I keep remembering, oh yeah, we did try. We tried. We tried. But, so.
Yeah, definitely recommend. If you RV at all, like it's a long, long ways to haul down there. But I think it needs to be on every RVer's bucket list to make it down to somewhere in the Keys, and Jolly Roger is a great, great spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I also loved all the places that we could eat while we were there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we did most of our eating in Key West, but we did hit up some other places, like the Island Fish Company was nearby our campsite. Robbie's is a place where we had breakfast, and a lot of people had, I guess it's just kind of pretty well known. I think my dad's been there too since we've gone.
Yeah, Robbie's is a popular spot. We went for breakfast, and so it's more popular for like dinner, I think. And you can feed tarpons there, which tarpons are these huge silver fish. And the story goes that when they opened the restaurant there, they found an injured tarpon right off, and they got a vet to come out and take a look at it. And the vet actually stitched it up. It had been hit by a boat propeller or something. and the vet stitched its jaw up. And it's the first known time that someone has given stitches to a fish.
Oh my gosh, that's sweet.
But since then, like that tarpon like hung around there and they would feed it. And now there's a ton out there. And so you can pay for a little bit of bait and go out on the dock and hand feed all these tarpons. And so like that's a really big thing to do at Robbie's. And it's right off, everything's right off Highway 1. And so as you're headed into the Keys and Key Largo, if you're hungry at all or just want to see something cool, stop at Robbie's. Like it's a great little spot.
You told that story of the tarpon, and I literally don't remember anything about that.
I'm not surprised.
And it's like I was hearing it for the first time. So you guys, my reaction was genuine. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so sweet. Because I don't remember.
It's funny because in researching for this episode, like literally in prep for us to record, Hilarie told me a fact about Ernest Hemingway. And she's like, can you believe this? I can't believe this. I literally just edited video footage of her saying the exact same thing.
There's proof that I knew at one point.
Yeah,
and I totally forgot. Doesn't surprise me. But back to food. I'm really hungry, by the way, right now. So as we start talking about these different places to eat, I'm like, oh.
So many good places in Key West.
In Key West, yes. And I would go back and I think I would stay in Key West.
I would too. Like it was really hard to do with an RV, but if you were just going back to visit, I'd stay in Key West.
Yeah. There is, okay, so I'm going to rattle off a bunch of places. And then at the end of this episode, I'm going to give credit to all the people who gave us these ideas, because this is the place where we had more ideas thrown at us from people than any other place. So many recommendations, and it made it such a great experience for us because we didn't have to go hit and miss on some good places. Right. We had all these people telling us these amazing places. So thank you to all you guys out there who were giving us that on Instagram. I mean, there were so many options. I really appreciated it. It was awesome. But one of those is, Blue Heaven is a place with some amazing key lime pie, which we forced ourselves to eat, and it was so good. And you can like sit outside. You don't have to sit outside, but you can. And then, and it's got great, easy, casual vibes. Also, incredible coffee from Cuban Coffee Queen. I love that. I literally still think about that coffee. In fact, I might get online and see if I can get me some of those coffee beans because I really liked that coffee.
You did like that a lot.
I talk about it, don't I? I love it.
Yeah.
I really like it. We also had lunch at Smokin' Tuna, another outdoor space. And keep in mind, a lot of these outdoor places where you're eating, there are roosters everywhere and chicken.
And chickens, yeah.
And that is like a thing there, like especially in Key West. I think a lot of islands, though, have a lot of chickens.
Yeah.
Because they can't go anywhere. But they're really protected. It's a very important thing in Key West. Like, you do not touch the rogue chickens and roosters. Like, they are beloved. And I want to say there might be a law against it. But and so we also went to the original Margaritaville. Hello. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And which actually I was really surprised by it because it's very low key compared to like Key West. It's very low key compared to all of the other Margaritavilles so whatever you have in your mind, what you think Margaritaville is like, it is not. The original one is so basic and
it's like a little dive bar.
It's like a little dive bar that's like, with a stage.
And was your low key joke a Florida Keys or low key because Jimmy Buffett is a musician? I'm just trying to help everyone make connections.
Thank you. Let's walk through that. It was a joke about Key West.
Oh, okay.
I almost used the words Key West, but now I know I should have because my jokes don't always land. We also had cocktails at a bar called General Horseplay. We had we went to Santiago Bodega for tapas for dinner. We also went to have drinks at Sloppy Joe's, and that was an experience. You'll hit on that later. We'll talk about that. But it's home of the original Sloppy Joe. And it's also Ernest Hemingway, the writer. It's his favorite bar. It was his favorite bar, and his best friend owned it. And so that's kind of fun. And we'll talk more about Ernest Hemingway later because he's a big part of the experience in Key West.
Yeah, I think it would be so crazy to have like lived in a place where like the dive bar that you go to all the time, like Ernest Hemingway is hanging out in there.
Yeah, wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah, that'd just be
I wonder
insane.
what he was like.
But there's, I mean, tons of stuff to do in Key West,
Yes.
aside from just food. The food was
Yes.
amazing, but like lots of stuff to do.
Well, one of the things that surprised me was like you're literally you're at the southernmost point in the continental U.S. So Cuba is like a stone's throw away in terms of the ocean. It's 90 miles away. It's so close.
Right.
And then you also have Highway 1, which we talked about, but it takes you to mile 0.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy when you see an actual sign that says mile 0.
Yeah.
And people take pictures there. And that was, I just thought that was really fun. And I didn't expect it. I didn't know that was something that we would see. So it was kind of like this random thing. We're walking down the street, seeing pictures of people taking photos next to mile 0. And I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. The other thing, there's a national park nearby that is another island of its own. But I'm blanking on the name. Dry Tortugas. We would have loved to have done that as well.
Yeah, we just didn't have time. But that seems like tired. An amazing thing to do.
We wanted to lay around the campsite by the ocean. That's the reality. And then there's Ernest Hemingway's house, which was really cool. Man, loved it. And then the Mel Fisher Museum, which is a museum. Well, actually, why don't you tell everybody about that? You've got kind of more background and better memory.
So Mel Fisher was a man who lived in California and actually moved his family to Key West to search for sunken treasure.
That's crazy.
Which is an insane thought. Like, if that's your uncle in the like Thanksgiving, they're like, hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're moving the family to Key West. We're gonna look for sunken treasure. I'm pretty sure I know where it is. I mean, you just kind of roll your eyes like that's a crazy thing.
Yeah. It's not even like you're like, is this an investment that would ever pay off?
Right. Like, that's just insane.
Right.
But that's what he did. And they actually found treasure. And to commemorate this, he donated $20 million and a bunch of the treasure to this museum that kind of walks you through the story, and you actually get to see a lot of the treasure. The ship that they actually found, I believe, was called the Atoka, and it was found between Key West and Dry Tortugas, so very, very close. And it's a Spanish galleon, so basically a treasure ship, and nothing like it.
It was hauling tons of important stuff, right?
Right, like nothing like this had ever been found before or has been since to this magnitude, because Spain at the time was sending a lot of explorers and conquistadors over to Central America and the a lot of the Bahamas and things like that. But in Central America, they were basically harvesting all the silver and gold and gems, and then they would ship it all back to Spain to sort of like, that's how the country was running itself, funding a lot of wars with England at the time through this money that was coming in. And so they would load up these Spanish galleons, and there would be fleets of ships, but just full of gold and jewels and all this stuff headed back to Spain.
It's a pirate's dream.
Right. Well, that's why piracy was so big, was because they
knew that was happening.
Right. If you could get a hold of some of these ships, like, it changes everything. And so a big fleet of ships left Havana and hit storms almost right away, because you're really close. Like you said, you're only 90 miles away.
Yeah.
So they had left Cuba.
They were like a day in, right?
Right. Like first day in, hit these storms, get scattered. 7 ships sunk and like 550 people died. And And this
Seven
was
ships. 7 ships.
yeah,
That's
7
wild.
ships sunk. And
Full
this
of
was,
treasure.
they had really only found this one because some of the wreckage for another one had been found like right away. But this was like September 5th, 1622. And
There's not like scuba divers that can go down and save people or, you know, save stuff.
right, but they did have divers that recovered some of the treasure, and the way they would do it, they had a huge brass bell that a person would get inside of, and they would lower it to the seafloor so that you would be inside this bell.
Oh,
and
that
you would
is
get
so
stuff
risky.
and then they would like pick it back up, and that's how they used to recover things from the ocean floor like back in the day. But
that is terrifying. I do not remember that part either.
But they found all kinds of stuff. They found 5 anchors, and the anchors weigh like 2,200 pounds.
Whew.
So just massive. And they didn't find a ship. So I think a lot of times when you think of like sunken treasure, you think like, oh, you find it like an intact ship on the ocean floor.
Yeah.
And everything's inside that. And it wasn't like that. It was all the ship was gone, but all of the treasure was spread over like 50 miles.
Wow.
And they found $500 million worth of treasure.
Whew.
And it,
Daddy wasn't so crazy.
right? Like it all paid off. There was so much crazy stuff that they found. And they found not only is there like treasure that was like accounted for and on the ships, but there's also like people smuggling treasure back for their families and things like this. And so there's all kinds of stuff. Even in the museum, you see some jewelry that was made and it was on its way to the Pope. Like they had made the jewelry like a cross out of all these emeralds, and it was headed back. And there was so many like jewels and stuff like that just got scattered on the floor as they were searching through the wreckage and pulling up this treasure. They just found all these gems and emeralds were kind of like dust on the ocean floor. And so they're vacuuming them up and sifting out the dust and getting all these emeralds. And the divers that were recovering this stuff, when they would come up, they would have to like pull emeralds out of their hair.
That's wild.
And when they would come up from these recovery efforts, like just insane.
I mean, you know, I basically experienced that when we were in Yosemite, and we got to one of those, we were on one of those hikes and got to this beautiful little lake, and it had like gold flakes all in the water. I got to swim in it. My hair was probably had like all kinds of gold in it.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
It's basically my life experiences as well.
But the Mel Fisher Maritime Museum is definitely worth checking out. They've got a lot of the treasure inside there. We've got some pictures of it. We weren't allowed to film inside, but if you go to the YouTube video, there's some pictures of the treasure, massive, like silver bars, gold, things like that. It was so interesting.
Did we just kind of fall upon that? I'm not sure if I remember anybody.
We met a couple on the street.
Right.
And they told us about it. They'd been several times. They'd love to go to Key West, and they're like, go check out this museum.
Yeah, I would do it again.
I would too. Like there's just so much there. So interesting.
Yeah. And it's such a fairy tale that it's like a real life fairy tale that you get to kind of like, you know, learn about. It's really fascinating. And honestly, like it's fun to look at jewels. Oh man. Well, okay. So the other thing that was a real highlight for us was Ernest Hemingway's home.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. He is so interesting. What a fascinating person. He had such a full life. He lived in a ton of different countries. I can't even rattle them all off, but we like learned so much about him that it was just like mind blowing. During Normandy's D-Day, he was present that day. He was a news correspondent and he was there that day, which I think is wild.
Yeah, he's a journalist.
He's known for his really succinct writing style. So, just a reminder, Ernest Hemingway is an American writer. And some of his famous books include like The Sun Also Rises, which was his first book. And we actually listened to that. I think our plan after Key West is we were going to like read all of his books. And we got to one. We did the first one. But it was really good. I mean, I actually, as we talk about it, I'm like, I really do want to read the others. We listened to The Sun Also Rises after we left the Keys because we were so impressed by everything about him. And it's the super adventurous story about a man who's traveling from Paris to Spain for the running of the bulls. And it's pretty fascinating to listen to. And then Farewell to Arms is another one that a lot of people would know. And it's about his time falling in love with a nurse at the hospital, right? Like in Normandy or something like that, right? I think
so, yeah.
And then one thing that I did not remember anybody telling me, but as we were kind of like refreshing our memories over Key West and everything, I was looking him up and he was challenged, and this might be a little bit of folklore, but it's pretty fascinating. He was challenged to create an entire short story in 6 words, and he did it. I kind of like to think that this might have happened at Sloppy Joe's bar or something somewhere in Key West, but he did it. And those 6 words are like super, super powerful. And when we had never heard this, but it really hits home for us, he wrote, "For sale, baby shoes never worn." And that is that short story. And for us, I think like it hits home because obviously what we've been through of having a newborn baby that didn't get to wear all of her clothes. And we love our baby Hollis and we love the opportunity to talk about her. So when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that is incredibly powerful. Anyway, so he was really known for his clean, succinct writing style, which makes sense if he was a news correspondent. He was used to getting to the point. And anyway, I thought that was like really fascinating and just wanted to share. But his home, which we got to tour, was fabulous. I mean, it makes you want to live in the Keys.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we would get to live in a house like that, but it's not some kind of mansion. It's like a nice 2-story home. One of the most impressive things to me was that the whole thing on the first floor and the bottom floor, there was just like a wraparound porch.
Yeah.
That just made it so indoor, outdoor, and was lovely. And he actually had the first residential pool in the Florida Keys, which I thought was really kind of fun. And it's still there, and it's like filled with water, and it looks nice.
Yeah, it looks great.
Kind of impressive, and everything is covered by so much vegetation. It's so lush and beautiful. And one thing that a lot of people remember is that there are a ton of cats there because he had a favorite cat named Snow White, and well, maybe that was his only cat. I can't quite remember, but eventually there got to be like up to 70 cats there on his property.
Well, and they all know, like they know that all of those cats are descendants of Snow White because they have 6 toes.
Yeah. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, which was crazy to see, like that all these cats with 6 toes.
Yeah.
Like, it was wild.
Yeah. Well, and inside his home, which I can't remember, you'll have to remind me if we actually saw this, but in one of the bathrooms, I believe is inside his home, in one of the bathrooms, he had the urinal from the Sloppy Joe's bar that he loved so much.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering that correctly. He definitely took that urinal home at some point. But I want to say it was in that house that he had it.
Yeah.
But that tells you like how much he really loved that bar, I guess. One other thing that was interesting about Ernest Hemingway is he had 4 wives, and his wife Pauline lived there in the house in Key West, and she kept it after they got divorced. And she likes to say, she would joke that she got his last penny. And the really funny part about that is that she actually put that penny in glass and put it on the sidewalk near the pool. It's like, this is his last penny and I got it, which I just thought was really funny. But she played a big part in how it was decorated and everything. She loved chandeliers and installed a lot of really unique chandeliers throughout the home, including one that's like a Tiffany's chandelier. I just went past a Tiffany's ad on my way home from work yesterday, and I was like, oh man, Tiffany's has been around a long time and it is nice. And then Ernest Hemingway, also one thing that is fascinating among all of the different things that he did, he survived 2 plane crashes in the American safaris. So if you think about
in African safaris.
Oh, did I say American?
Yeah, we don't have those
American
here.
Safaris. Thank you for that. But can you imagine, one, back in that day, surviving a plane crash at all would probably be a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And then 2, you're surviving it in the African safaris where the kind of help you would get, the kind of medical attention you would get would be much, much worse.
Right.
And then something that was really interesting is that he was treated with electroshock therapy after all of that happened. And I can't remember why they treated him that way. But it did cause him to lose his memory and he couldn't write. And I want to say that was towards the end of his life, but I don't actually know for sure. Or if that was just a part of his life and he got his memory back.
I think it was close to the end of his life because I don't think he ever wrote another book after that.
Oh, okay. You guys can fact check us on that. But more or less the moral of the story is Ernest Hemingway is fascinating. And all of the things that he experienced in life, he put it into his books. And so if you go and read his books, you get to kind of like, you're going to hear fascinating things from all over the world. And I just think that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, he really was a person that sort of just did whatever he wanted to do. Like he had a very adventurous spirit and was just like, deep sea fishing, I want to do that, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah, he liked
and
deep sea
wrote
fish.
a book, the Old Man and the Sea. Like he was a journalist in the war and then lived in Europe. And I think he just, anything that he was like, I'm really interested in doing that, I'm going to go do it. And that's just fascinating.
Yeah. And he used it as ammunition, really, for his writing.
Yeah, he fueled all his books with it. And it's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
One thing that Key West gave us that we weren't anticipating. And
there's a little shocker.
Yeah, that I probably could have done without was Fantasy Fest.
Fantasy Fest.
So our very first day in Key West, we are actually at the mile 0 marker. Our picture taken, and I think there was a couple there that we started talking to them, and they'd been several times. They're actually the ones that recommended the Mel Fisher Maritime Museum. But they were like, we're here for Fantasy Fest. I guess you guys are too. And we're like, those are new words to us.
Tell me
what's
more.
That? And Fantasy Fest happens, it's over 10 days at the end of October every year, kind of leading up to Halloween. And it's there in the city of Key West. They actually shut down the main drag where all the kind of restaurants and shops and bars are. And
is that Duvall Street?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. They categorize it as crazier than Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And I've not been to Mardi Gras in New Orleans, but if it's on this level of crazy, I'm probably not going to do it. But they have theme nights every night. And we were there, we went in to check it out, one of the evenings that we were there. And it was Tutu Tuesday. So everyone's wearing tutus and stuff like that. A lot of people wear body paint instead of clothes.
Only body paint.
And a lot of times when you hear things like that, when you hear body paint, you think of Playboy magazine, but really you should be thinking about National Geographic magazine. You're not in Vegas. You're not in California at the Playboy Mansion. You're in Florida where the old people are.
Where the snowboard birds have come to play, and play they do.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny because we just really weren't prepared for it and had no idea that's what we were about to see that night or whatever, you know?
Right. Yeah. And we didn't come down there seeking it out. And it felt almost a little weird to be there because I kind of like wanted people to know that I didn't come here for this. Like, this is not why
I didn't come
I'm
to
here.
like sit around and watch everybody walk around naked.
Right. Like, and it was just such a weird thing. Like, we only went in one evening. Like, we were in Key West a couple times, but mostly during the day. And during the day, like it's just normal. Like, you don't see it, but at night is when all the craziness comes out. I remember walking into a t-shirt shop that night, and the guy behind the counter, I was like, this is pretty crazy. And he goes, yeah. And I said, yeah, we didn't know this was a thing. We just happened to be here at this time. And he's like, oh, you need to come back when it's not like this. He goes, honestly, I consider closing my shop every year during this week.
Wow.
And just not being open. He goes, I hate it. And it was just wild. But if you're into that sort of thing, if you want to see old overweight people without their clothes on.
Well, in some ways I'm kind of like, if that's your jam, go be merry. Be merry, have fun. But yeah, I remember us being in Margaritaville during the day, and people were already, they had a body paint
like a booth.
Yeah, booth where they had already set it up and were already doing body paint on people. And I was like, man, whoever that is, that's gonna be a long day wearing your body paint around.
Yeah,
but
I felt bad for the body painter.
The body painter was seeing everything that you never thought you were gonna see in life.
I think when you sign up to be a body painter, when you learn that skill, I don't think this is what they had in mind.
That's not
it's not on the brochure.
That's funny. Oh man. But I will say Fantasy Fest was a surprise. Surprises are always fun and interesting. And but it did not come on the list of recommendations from other people.
No, it wouldn't be on our list of recommendations, but so glad that we did have all the recommendations.
Yes.
Because it made everything that we did a slam dunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there weren't any misses, and I think it's because we'd gotten all these recommendations.
Yeah, for sure. One place we didn't get to go, but we did, I'm going to throw it out here because my brother and sister-in-law, Lamar and Ashley, they mentioned that the key lime at Mrs. Max in Key Largo is really good. So I definitely recommend that if you are going down to the Keys. It would be like on your way. So if you're trying to make your way to Key West, you could kind of put it on the map as something you're going to do before you get there. So, or on the way back or something like that.
Well, and I know we went to like Blue Heaven, and Holly had recommended that for us.
Holly, thank you. One of our old coworkers.
Yeah, it was really good. Like, cool bar. Key lime pie there was great. Our friend Jeremy Nelson recommended the original Margaritaville.
Yes. Yeah. One of my coworkers, April, she recommended a ton of things that we did. She mentioned dried tortuga. We didn't get to do that, but the Cuban Coffee Queen that I got super hopped up about. And I'm literally, once we get off of here, I am getting online. I'm going to order me some coffee. She recommended that. She recommended General Horseplay for cocktails. She recommended smoking tuna, which I had some tuna nachos there that were so good.
It was really good.
Yeah, man, she had a ton of recommendations.
Well, and even people that we met down there, Mike and Kristen, were the ones that recommended the Mel Fisher Museum about the buried treasure. Lindsay Wallace recommended like the state parks. Florida state parks, particularly in the nice areas, can be hard to get into, but if you can, they have amazing sites.
Yeah,
like right on the water. So if you're wanting to go camp, like I would do it that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we could see them as we were driving through all the keys. You could see all of these like state parks, and there's trails that run from island to island. So as you're on the highway, you can see these trails where people might be riding bikes or running. And that was really fun too. We didn't do that, but I would totally do that. And keep in mind, when you're on this highway, you're mostly on bridges. And when you are on land, you can still see the water because that land is so narrow. So if you were on a run, you would just be looking at the ocean the whole time.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Yes. And then Kyle, another coworker who I knew from Blue Cross, he recommended Hemingway House. And that was such a highlight.
Yeah, it was such a good stop. So interesting.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone who threw out all these recommendations for us. It made it such a fabulous trip. And overall, I mean, the Keys they're a good time. Like, it is full-time fun.
Yes. It's very much like being on an island like Jamaica or Grand Cayman or the Bahamas or something like that. It's not like being in the mainland U.S.
It feels like vacation.
Yeah,
for sure.
It definitely feels like this is a cruise ship stop and like just a place where it's fun all the time.
Those Kenny Chesney songs are not wrong. Spot on. I will say one tip is to be prepared if you're driving it, that there is one road in and there is one road out. And so it could take a while to travel from key to key and just, you know, like slow down and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's beautiful and it's just going to take a while. So just embrace it. Parking can be a little difficult in Key West.
That's good.
So be prepared to park and walk quite a bit.
Good point.
Especially for us, we're hauling an RV, so we're in a big truck. And finding a place to park the truck was a little difficult, but it's well worth it. And don't let that stop you from going.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, like, winter is, it's actually their busy season.
Right.
So like, I think we had heard that like starting in November, like the snowbirds are down there and it gets busy.
Yeah,
so
that's when it kind of ramps up.
Yeah. Gosh, I would totally do it. I would totally go there in the winter though. I want to do Miami and the Keys again for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So much fun and just so cool and so different. Such a different experience from anything else.
Yeah, for sure. Up next, we have Panama City, and it is our last episode in the East in the Airstream.
Yep.
After that, we end up going more into some desert places and kind of go more towards middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we end up out west, some cool spots. We go to Joshua Tree, Sedona, the Grand Canyon, even Vegas. We hit up Vegas, and so a lot of cool stuff coming next season. But we'll one more episode, Panama City Beach. Yeah,
Panama City Beach. After that, actually, between seasons, we're going to do a fun spinoff episode, and we're going to tell you guys a little bit about a place you can go in Siloam Springs. My aunt has an Airbnb there, and we are going to talk about it and kind of show you guys what it looks like in a video. And so that's going to be just a little kind of bonus episode between all of these. So that's something to look forward to too. And if you're in the Midwest, it is a nice, easy, convenient getaway. Tell everybody a little bit about that. Looking forward to that. And you guys, if you're looking to find us or connect with us, you can do that on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And I do want to emphasize YouTube because we go to a lot of work to create some videos so you can see what it is that we're saying. And would love for you to go out there, watch some of the videos, maybe even binge them. And just, spend some time going through and seeing some of the things you haven't seen before. Any places that you've been trying to figure out where you want to go on vacation. It might give you some good ideas. So
yeah, go out there and watch a video or two. Leave us a comment.
We love comments.
Ask us a question. If you want to ask us something directly, you can email us at travelfomopodcast@gmail.com and get in touch with us that way. If you have some advice on the Florida Keys, we would love to share that with the rest of the Travel FOMO family. So hit us up there and we'd be happy to hear from you.
That's right. You guys, life is short.
Wander well.